The Charlotte Hornets just aren't losing anymore. That's it. They're done losing. They win their third straight against the Atlanta Hawks last night. It's their first double-digit victory of the entire season. Could you get any more momentum heading into All-Star break? It's ridiculous. We talk all the good stuff surrounding the Hornets coming up next.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcasts. And that includes YouTube, just as it always does. You can see me on YouTube. I'm Walker Mail. I'm on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. via Wes and Walker. You can also see Doug Branson. You can find his work on everyhornetsboxscore.com. And there's Nata. Nata comes back to talk about all the good stuff. See, it's great because we bring David Walker on to talk about Miles Bridges' legal issues, and we bring Nata on to just rejoice in Hornets victories. Nata Edwards, you can find him producing the college basketball podcast, Ion College Basketball. You can also find him on Twitter at Nata the Scribe. Nata, man, I know you wanted to break the door down to come and talk some good stuff about the Hornets, didn't you?
Well, no, technically I did not want to break the door down. Not for the good stuff. Like, me and Doug have our little issues with Mitch, which we'll go through because I might be the last person to defend Mitch. Well, semi-defend Mitch Kupchak. But for the most part, like I was told there was going to be a bachelor party and stuff like that. So, like, that's why, again, that's what Doug really got me in here.
That's right. We almost didn't get not on the show because he's getting married tomorrow. So this is the bachelor party. Kegs are in the back. Maybe some other things too. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Hornets party, yeah, we're getting drunk, yeah, 3 straight wins. Let's do it. We're gonna.
I feel consummated. I'll just say that. I mean, the Hornets. I feel like we've consummated something. I mean, you know,
yeah, consummated is a word. Yeah.
That is a word. That is a word that Doug chose to use there after the third straight victory for the Charlotte Hornets. The first winning streak, like it was first back-to-back, and now here they are winning their first 3-game consecutively this season, 122-99 against Atlanta last night. And they separate in the third and fourth quarter. Usually we're used to seeing them just completely come out flat out of the locker room, and yet here they are winning the third quarter by 10, and they win the fourth as well. Here they are winning by over 20 points. Here are the new look Hornets looking fantastic, coming off of the bench. Grant Williams, good from the field again, defensively playing really well, physically. Also, like, the rebounding is there for Grant, which he's been terrible at his entire. I
told you. You tried to deny it. You tried to deny Grant Williams, his physicality, right. His impact as a small ball 5. You tried, but you're failing.
I need you to go ahead and put $1 in the phlegm bucket, please, for interrupting for something useless. But Grant Williams did score 15 points off of the bench, and he is playing very physically, and the rebounding is way better than we've seen from him before, and they need that. They need the rebounding badly. Micic was awesome, 13 points for him off of the bench. The crazy antics. I saw Rod, our buddy Rod, shout out, call him Micic Johnson. Excellent stuff from Rod. And so here they are winning. Nata, like, what have you enjoyed the most out of just seeing these new guys come in off of the bench? Trey Mann has been excellent in the starting lineup. It's kind of doing him a disservice to say that he's one of the guys coming off of the bench. What have you made of the new look Hornets?
It's interesting to see what happens when we actually put NBA players on the bench instead of half of the Greensboro Swarm. I mean, it's almost like having NBA players makes your coach actually look good. So the fact that there's NBA quality, we don't have to worry about JT Thor in the corner now because it's Davis Bertans. We don't have to worry about it being either Ish or, again, I can't even remember the other point.
Nick Smith Jr., Mensa, it's brutal.
It's absolutely refreshing to actually have 7, 8, 9, 10 NBA players in on one team, because quite honestly, we haven't had that for at least I would say not since the 48-win team, at least 10 NBA caliber players. So to have that is just been the most refreshing part. Also, having players that actually look like they care also does a lot for the morale as well.
So not only are the bench players playing well, that's opened up things for the talented young foundation pieces to thrive. And Brandon Miller, despite the volume going away the first 2 games, and what was a very big difference, right? Single digit field goal attempts in each of the first 2 games with the new players. Not here. 19 field goal attempts for Brandon Miller, 8 of 19, 4 of 9 from distance, got to the foul line and hit all 6 of his free throws. So now you get to see smart basketball players help Brandon Miller flourish. You get to see the new basketball players help give Miles Bridges driving lanes. And then when Miles is hitting his 3 last night, yeah, it saves him from what was a bad 2-point night. But still, Miles has been very good in these last 3 games. Doug, I know it's been exciting for you as well. Like I have seen you more active with all of the happiness on Twitter, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing because you are sitting there just rejoicing with everyone else in a way that nobody's been able to this entire season.
I'm rejoicing. I'm welling up. Like there are happy tears. I can't, and I'm not even, this is not even kind of me playing around on the show. Like I've legitimately fallen in love with basketball again. Here's a little something about me. I watch a lot of Hornets basketball. I don't really watch a ton of other basketball because in the spare moments that I get during the regular season, I try to spend it doing hobbies or spending time with my family. Like I don't watch a ton of other basketball. Certainly don't watch a lot of college basketball. That's why I just blow Nata's phone up and ask him all the college basketball questions I have once we get to tournament time. But So all I have is Hornets basketball, and what I've had to endure over the course of this season has really made me hate basketball because it has not been legitimate NBA basketball. I had forgotten how beautiful this game can be, why I fell in love with this game in the first place when I was a kid, because this is a beautiful game. And what the Hornets are playing right now, because of Micic, because of Mann, because of what they open up for Bridges and Miller, it has become a beautiful game again. Seth Curry as well, being able to hit some of those mid-range jumpers that he can get to. Davis Bertans, his ability to get his own shot, like you don't need him to score a ton, but he can give you 2 or 3 threes a game, and that's really important at the end of your bench if you do want to be competitive. But, Brandon Miller's playing so well, by the way. At the beginning of this game, Jalen Johnson was eating his lunch. He was missing rebound opportunities, and I was ready to write something about Brandon Miller, wake up. The new guys are providing energy. You've got to step it up. He scores so much and so effectively and so easily, and so he's so dominating with the ball in his hands that you can't critique him. You shouldn't critique him because, as Clifford says, look, if you want to go out and not give 100% effort on the boards or 100% effort on defense, then you better be scoring 30 a night. And it's it looks like Brandon Miller could score 30 a night. It is nuts what's happening out there right now.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about that now. Not his rookie season. Right. His rookie season, the scoring is ridiculous from him. This is what I talked about. The volume was there last night, and I expect it to even out. I think most people would. We're not going to see 19 every night. We're not going to see 7 or 9 every night. We'll probably see something in the middle, anywhere 13 to 15. That's where he needs to cook. It doesn't matter how many field goal attempts you give him, though. And I think that's what's surprising about Brandon, a rookie, right? It's surprising for any rookie, but just anybody rolling into the NBA should not be that adaptable to different volume levels and still be efficient no matter what you do. So it's funny because Brandon Miller struggled coming into this game or coming into the NBA. That's the game, the NBA, finishing at the rim. Yeah. And that's the most efficient shot in all of basketball that you should be doing well. And he struggled with that. I know he got better at Alabama, but that was a problem. And it's still a problem at times, especially through traffic. But even without that, it's crazy. The outside shooting for Brandon and the mid-range game for Brandon is absolutely nuts. The fact that he continues to hit at such a high clip. And that's what's fantastic about watching him cook. And I know you came around on Brandon before the draft as well. Look, it's tough to say anybody saw this kind of performance coming year one. I didn't think he'd fail. I thought he'd shoot well, 36 to 38% on low volume. Everything was going to have to be created for him. Nah, man, he's creating for himself. Sometimes he's, shooting 15 to 35 feet out, and he's just being able to beat the defense however they want it.
I do thank you for the vindication because I had to spend the draft special this year defending the Brandon Miller pick against one of the people in this chat. I had to spend that. I spent a decent portion of that. So I do appreciate the props and the flowers right there. but he's done more than even I thought it was possible at this point. I didn't think the mid-range was going to be there because, quite honestly, he didn't show it. Now, thank you, Nate Oates, for hiding that portion of his game. But he's just the biggest thing I can think of about the biggest compliment is he is old school. He's absolutely old school. He takes an old school mentality to it. He's very detail oriented, as Cliff told JJ Redick, as we know that was a source,
right?
Essentially,
yes.
But you got that. But the big thing is like his approach to the game is just, I want to rip your throat out, and I want you to, and I'm going to celebrate in front of you because I'm 19, 20 years old. So he's got that old school approach to where there's a lot of this that we never saw from in his 1 year of Alabama, but the fact that we see it now, like Mitch, Michael, they did hit a home run on the way out. They hit a walk-off with this guy, and very, very thankful. And because if not for him, this would have been a lot more miserable than it actually is at this point.
All right, I love the transition. Thank you for helping me with the segue. We can do that coming up in the next segment on Locked On Hornets.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Mitch Kupchak, Michael Jordan, who did they both hit the walk-off? And did Mitch Kupchak give us can you even have two walk-offs? Did he do it again at the NBA trade deadline? Mitch Kupchak praise coming up next. Before we get to more Mitch Kupchak praise, this episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. You can get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info, you can claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. More Locked On Hornets ahead.
So listen, fellas, we got very emotional in that first segment because I think a lot of fans are emotional about what they're seeing right now because we spent so long in the desert and now finally we've been given a drink. And so I know there's a lot of discussion to be had about this current regime and the next regime of front office. But before we do that, I have to apologize because I feel like we really buried the lead in the first segment about what happened in that game. Really two leads. Because it's always fun to talk about Brandon Miller, but I don't even think that's why they got a double-digit victory. The two reasons why is Cody Martin shutting down Trae Young, just absolutely shutting him down defensively. One of the best defensive games I've seen from him as a Charlotte Hornet. But then the other thing, which is probably more interesting to talk about, is Trey Mann. Yeah. I mean, did the Hornets just trade Terry Rozier and get a first-round pick and then trade for a younger, vastly cheaper version of Terry Rozier because ball handling and scoring and deflecting, like these are things that I've seen from Terry Rozier in the past couple of seasons, and I just saw them all from Trey Mann in this game.
To be fair, I don't think Terry ever defended like Trey Mann does. Trey Mann has cut off drives and defenders and done a lot more defensively than I think Terry's done in his tenure, and I don't necessarily I love the way Trey Mann plays. I think he's closer to a more athletic Lou Williams than he is Terry, and Lou filled him up. So if we get younger, cheaper, better Lou Williams, sign me up because you're absolutely right. He changed everything. And then on top of that, the other question I'm going to toss back to both of you: does it look like Cody Martin's got his burst back? Because it kind of looks like it took a while for him to trust the knee. Now it looks like he trusts the knee, and now he's doing things that he used to do under Borrego in terms of defense.
Trying to yam on dudes, and he's hitting some tough shots. Like he's going one-on-one, and the one move that he had, he's like spun baseline and then spun back to get open in front of the rim. Like, yeah, he's popping off the screen right now.
So the Cody Martin question for me, remember, Doug, we came on this podcast after like his second game back initially and thought, man, it doesn't seem like he lost that much of a step. It was the problem afterwards, right? Like after he gave us that kind of performance, then he had to go sit for a little bit longer. And it's like, great, Cody Martin's injured again. So I'm going to Ron Rivera you for all you Panthers fans out there. It's all about how Cody Martin feels the next day. And so we're going to see about what Cody, like, because I'm with you. Cody was great. But can Cody handle that kind of defensive assignment now with all of the injuries that he's suffered and continue to give that type of performance going forward? What's great is that you have the All-Star break, so we won't know. I guess that's true about this specific one. But if we see something similar like this in the second half, then can he do that again the next 2 or 3? Or does he just need to sit on the bench for a little bit? That's what I'm interested to see. The other thing, man, the Hornets, they've always defended Trae Young pretty well. And it doesn't matter if James Borrego was the guy as the head coach. James Borrego would tell you, it was like, I'm not going to give away my secrets for defending Trae Young. I remember asking him at a shoot-around before the Hawks play-in game. And we asked him about defending Trae so well, saying, I'm not giving you any secrets there. Like, I can't, just let everybody know what's going on. And then, of course, the Hawks would destroy him. But at least what we've seen from Trae against the Hornets before, very inefficient. Like the last 2 games that he's played against them, 12, 23, 33% from the field, 21% from the field. Like there's a lot of those types of field goal percentages put up here and nothing above a 44 that he put up December 16th of 2022. Like this is something they've done really well. And I wonder, we had the 1 year where Cody Martin was out, but Cody can help in some of those situations. Yeah. So in some love for Cody, and Brandon Miller also gave Cody Martin some love. Maybe we can touch on that before we get to Kupchak. Because I think if we want to go back to Brandon Miller, when you go and you make sure you give praise to a veteran, a defensive-minded veteran, a guy that's gone through it injury-wise, like I think that shows a real sign of maturity as much as anything. You specifically want to shout out Cody Martin to make sure he gets the love for how he performed in this game against one of the best offensive players in the NBA. I thought that was really cool from Brandon, and we look for little signs about, hey, how can he be a leader? Can he be that guy? We've already seen a ton of it. Here's just another piece of evidence to show, yeah, Brandon Miller, he can be a leader both on the court and at the microphone.
Honestly, like Brandon Miller, like when we start talking about the maturity and everything he's done, he realized he had a very narrow path to walk. And instead of just being like, yo, I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to do this my way. He's been like, I'm just going to walk this narrow path. I'm going to show it on the basketball court. I'm not only going to talk about it, I'm going to be about it. And he's taken the leadership void that Terry kind of left when he got traded. And he's not only taken it, he's run with it because
he's exceeded it. And he's exceeded it because Terry's not really doing that. Terry will say, hey, we need to play better defense. And then, of course, they wouldn't play better defense afterwards. We need to make sure that we're carrying out the coach's message. And then they wouldn't really carry the coach's message afterwards. So you're right. Like Terry, we still felt like was a leader on the court. Nobody questioned his effort. We still cared about what Terry did offensively. But what Terry didn't do is what Brandon Miller just did.
Yo, Grant Williams is doing stuff that no Hornet previously is doing. In terms of, look, some of this, there's leadership that happens that we'll never see and is not reported on, and that's a thing. But some of this, too, is a communications job. It is like players got to step up and get in front of cameras and say, this is what we're not doing, or this is what we're doing well, and give fans some excitement. And that's what, when Brandon Miller does that, when Grant Williams says we want to bring back that 90s Hornets atmosphere, that has an impact. That is what results if you compare that with great play like Grant Williams has done, getting a double-double in this game. Like if you could do that, that's what allows Let's Go Hornets chance to happen in Spectrum Center and not Let's Go Knicks.
True. Very true. But the thing is, and you mentioned it. Grant Williams does lean into that. I thought it was going to be a nice little interesting clash with Grant Williams and a guy like Miles Bridges, because we know that one takes this really, really seriously, calls himself Batman, and the other one does rap videos. So, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but at the same point, like, there's a different like level. Like, we all know the try hard guy at work. We all either like that guy or get along with that guy, or we just try to avoid that guy completely. So there's all of that. So there's a lot of this stuff going on. At the same point, like, I didn't think it would mesh this well this early at this point.
Yeah, that's the surprising thing here, is that it is working. And we'll see what happens once they get a few more games under their belt. But now, real quickly, let's just touch the Mitch Kupchak topic, because here we are giving all this love to Brandon Miller. And this has been a pretty popular combo, trying to figure out what happened at the deadline, right? Because Gabe Plotkin, Rick Schnall, heavily involved. The only question is, how involved were they to the point of picking the players that they wanted to go pursue and then saying, hey, Mitch, go get it done for those specific players. Trey Mann, love him, go get him. Bertans, we need shooting, go get him. Grant Williams, we need physicality and toughness, and even just somebody that's vocal, go get him. What do you think of just how involved Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnall were on that front, Nata? And how much love Mitch Kupchak does deserve for the way that he technically pulled off these trades at the deadline?
I think it's at least 50-50. I do think Plotkin and Schnall were very, very involved. I mean, it was reported as much. At the same point, I do credit Mitch for getting this done and then getting on a plane to Barcelona. I think it's a little bit of both. But the question I have is, who was the person that advised Plotkin and Schnall? That's the biggest question, because if it's the future GM, well, they're only interested in people that have experience and are working. So there's like, if they helped out, that's tampering in multiple ways.
I don't have a tinfoil hat. All I have is the big dub hat. I don't have a tinfoil hat, but it'll have to do. But
you see where we're going with this. Like, whoever advised them, if it's the future GM and if it's who we all think it might be, he's got a lot of questions to ask from his current boss on this one.
I'm getting some reporting here that it was a Langdon Trangden. That was who. That's who did it.
Don't say it. Because now I don't want to start with any problems as soon as this guy takes over the job. Like, as soon as he takes over, we're gonna have some second round draft pick taken away for tampering. I don't want that. So let's not put that out there.
But we have to remember that Rick Schnall was a minority owner for the Atlanta Hawks. It's not as if this is not a Matt Ishbia or some owner that comes in with a lot of money from some other industry coming into the NBA circles and trying to meddle. Like, I'm sure that Schnall had people that he could call, a Schnall call, if you will, and say, hey, give me the skinny on OKC's deep bench. Who's sitting on the bench right now that probably shouldn't be sitting on the bench? They're trying to give me Poku right now. I don't know what I think I accidentally gave a thumbs up, and my Mac gave a thumbs up on the screen anyway.
I think it did. Yeah, I saw that. That was cool.
Yeah, it did.
Likes your point.
Well, I give a thumbs up to Schnall if he's making the Schnall call and saying, look, they're trying to give me Poku. Who should I be going after? And if that person said, hey, Trey Mann probably deserves a little bit more run than he's getting right now, and then they made the move. I'm not saying that any of that happened. I'm saying that it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for Schnall to have connections and to do that, and then to go to Mitch and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm thinking, and this is what I think we should do. Go do it. I will give Mitch credit for this. It must have been difficult to, break down everything that he built. And he did it with class, and he didn't quit and talk junk. In fact, he stepped down into another role. So, look, I appreciate him for cashing the check, doing what needed to be done, which was essentially destroying his own baby. And so here we are.
Well, and for Mitch too, I really don't think that's how he gets down anyway, though. I think Mitch is so by the book. That's been the very criticism of Mitch Kupchak. It's the fact that he will not tamper. He refuses to talk to free agents. He refuses to talk to agents before you are legally allowed to do so. And all of a sudden, his phone is blowing up because Woj and Shams are reporting, hey, these guys have signed. Like, wait, what? What's going on? I haven't even talked to these guys. Man. So that's not Mitch's thing, man. Like, I think if Mitch Mitch does act at a professional level where it doesn't matter if he needs to trade PJ, Gordon, despite signing Gordon, drafting PJ, and then flirting with trading Miles before Miles and Rich Paul just tell you, nope, I'm not doing it. So you might be right. I'm not even saying it's not crazy difficult, but I do think it probably wasn't as difficult as you might think for the average person of, I just worked this hard to build something. And you didn't build anything, man. Like, not yet. Like, this is a team that got to the play-in. You got some nice enough pieces to where you didn't have to blow it up entirely. You still have LaMelo. You still do have Miles. You're probably trying to bring him back. You have some bench pieces. You have Brandon Miller. So you didn't blow it up entirely. But I do think, Mitch, if you're telling him, hey, you need to switch this up a little bit, he's like, yeah, you know what? You're probably right. Let's go make these calls. And Gabe, Rick, you can be in on him just like you were the Zoom call with media.
Yeah, at this point, though, like, the one thing we know about Mitch Kupchak is he's a very loyal soldier. He took a lot of bullets for Jim Buss in those decisions back when he was with the Lakers before he ended up here. So it wouldn't surprise me if he just went, he's like, yes, boss, like he's been doing for basically the last 2 years. It would not surprise me if he just basically was like, okay, this is what you need me to do. I'll do this. And I'll be a good soldier. And if it doesn't work, it's my fault no matter what.
One, I think it makes us all look foolish in retrospect because when he was hired, we all thought, all right, Rich Cho was essentially doing whatever Jordan wanted. And so you've got a guy, Mitch Kupchak. Yes, they're familiar with one another, but Kupchak coming from the Lakers, has enough cachet with Michael Jordan to say, I'm going to do this, let me run this. Let's get some separation here. And I think while maybe there was a little bit less meddling in the sense of like, hey, we should go get this player or that player and I want to do this, I think that Mitch Kupchak was never willing enough to fight back on the financial restrictions that were placed on a team that needed to spend a little to win a little. And now finally you've got an ownership group there that it seems like is more willing to go out and provide an NBA level bench. Like, I mean, again, you have to believe one of two things. Either Mitch Kupchak does not understand what an NBA level bench rotation looks like, which I strain to believe that, honestly. I mean, he's been around long enough to know what an NBA player is and what they aren't. Or you have to believe that he was under some serious restrictions on what he could or couldn't do, and he'll never say that because not is right. He is kind of loyal. I'm by the book. I'm going to do this for you, and here's my role, and here's your role, and I'm not going to speak out about it. And that's why he's still with the organization. That's right. Why he wasn't. That's why he wasn't given a pink slip and told to clear out your desk, because that's who the new owners know he can be in the future too. But that's the legacy. If you're talking about legacy of Mitch Kupchak, what this era means, it's a guy that, just another one in a long line of people that couldn't stand up to Jordan in the moment and say, like, this is what this organization needs to do, and if we're not going to do it, then I'm not going to work here anymore.
Oh, okay. the big old foot down for Mitch Kupchak. Well, we can get to more Mitch Kupchak stuff. I think there's some interesting things there to look back on his legacy, if you will. Last segment coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets.
Oops. Well, I was going to say, you can take me. Listen, if you can take me seriously because I have this hat on. Okay, that's what I wanted to say there.
It's a scary man right there. You want to try this again? Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
I don't want to hit the button again. I'm scared of what will happen. Just tell us what's coming up next.
All right, okay. What's coming up next is we're going to continue the Mitch Kupchak conversation. I still think there's some meat on the bone there, but also what's next? So you're moving on from Mitch. Now, what's next? Elton Brand had an interesting report surrounding him. We'll get to that in just a moment. Before we get to all of that, I did want to tell you about Hungry Root. This episode is brought to you by Hungry Root, and Hungry Root is your partner in healthy living. It's the easiest way to get fresh, high-quality groceries and simple, healthy recipes delivered to your door. You can take a fun, short quiz, and Hungry Root will get to know your personal health goals, what you like to eat, the kitchen appliances you use, even more than that. Then they'll build you a personalized chart with all of your grocery needs for the week and give you delicious recipe recommendations to put those groceries to good use. Hungry Root will recommend recipes and groceries based on your personal taste, but each order is fully customizable. You can take their suggestions or choose anything you want. They've got fresh produce, high quality meat and seafood, pantry staples, healthy snacks, sweets, ready to eat meals, and even more than that. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Locked On NBA, Locked On Hornets listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. That's ridiculous. Just go to hungryroot.com/lockedon to get 40% off your first delivery and get free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/lockedon. Don't forget to use our link so they know that we sent you. More Locked On Hornets ahead. All right, just a little bit more Mitch Kupchak convo because, I do think the legacy is a little bit more complicated than that. I do think that there's something to give credit for because, especially if you compare Mitch to what Rich Cho was. Rich Cho was terrible at drafting. I mean, it was amazing how many draft misses that Rich Cho had during his time in Charlotte. He was known as Trader Cho for a reason because he was extremely active. Didn't hit on all of them. In fact, probably a 50-50 proposition on whether he was going to hit on these trades. It is being kind. It is being kind.
It's being kind.
You're probably going 60-40 miss. But he is not without his hits. I will say that. Yeah. The misses are when I remember Miles Plumlee coming across my timeline, and I remember being at 7:30 at the time, the great Chris Allison asking me, Walker, why are they doing this? And me in real time saying, Chris, I don't know. I have no clue. That was the Rich Cho experience. You never knew what was going to come up at the deadline and even in the offseason. And then Mitch Kupchak comes in, and we do view him as this deal maker because that's how you operated with Kobe and Shaq on your squad. Mm-hmm. And that's how you operated with such a big franchise like the LA Lakers franchise. And so we thought there was going to be a little bit of that deal making, but I remember it wasn't just hindsight. We talked about how it wasn't going to happen at that level because Charlotte is very different than what the Lakers organization is. Mitch Kupchak took that way too seriously to the point where he didn't do anything at the deadline, and that's his biggest flaw. Just decided not to do anything ever via trade. Montrezl Harrell was the biggest move that he made before this deadline. That was the biggest one, and that was a rental. It helped a little bit, but he was not going to get fleeced on any deal. He was scared to death for that to happen, and so he never made any moves. The draft history is not bad, though. Like, it's not amazing, but you hit on what are a pretty good amount of players. Like, either these guys either got to second contracts, your second-round picks, or either turned in to more second-round picks or first-round picks in a couple of cases. And there was one really bad one, which was 2021. You draft James Bouknight, you trade up for Kai Jones. That went horribly, horribly, horribly wrong. Okay? Couldn't have gone more wrong with either one of those players. Actually, kind of comically, not so comically. But everything else, like you did do a pretty good job drafting. And so that's why I think the legacy of Mitch is, I was ready to move on. Like, I wanted them to go get a new general manager. I thought it was time. And I was maybe even ready at the first time it was reported that they might move on and he might take a step back. I do think the draft, it is a really important part of team building. And I think Mitch Kupchak did a pretty good job overall in how he operated in the draft.
By the way, there's not a laugh track going on right now. We are coming to you live from Nata Edwards' wedding preparation central. Yeah. So this is good. I love it. Nata's doing a live shot from his own wedding. This is great.
No, like quite literally my father-in-law's basement where I'm recording this right now.
That looks like a father-in-law's basement. I saw the pool table in the background, like a bunch of different like old knickknacks. I could have told you it was either your father-in-law's basement.
Blue ribbon sign.
Oh, definitely. There's like the old whiskey fun bottles. The old Jack is sitting there.
Exactly. And because this is fantastic. Because I have so much noise in the background, I might enjoy one of these nice little airplane closets as soon as I'm finished. But the one thing I do want to bring up is that I do think Mitch put his foot down. I just think that with the relentlessness of Jordan, it just wore him down. Because I know of a story where instead of Terry Rozier being the first point guard to replace Kemba, it would have been Emmanuel Mudiay. And the biggest thing was the dysfunction probably just took over as the rumored money went down and Jordan just took more and more hands on. I just wonder, like, at what point, like Doug said, at what point do you fight for yourself? What point do you just say, yo, look, I'm not going to take this anymore because at this point you're playing with my legacy. At the same point, it's like I said, it's a lot more complicated. And the fact that Plotkin and Schnall came in with a plan within 6 months, basically was like, yo, we're going to do this. And it just tarnishes not only Mitch's legacy when we talk about this, but also really tarnishes Jordan's at the same point.
Yeah, I mean, look, organizations don't become dysfunctional, and they certainly don't stay dysfunctional by accident. It's on purpose. There are reasons. And so, and that's been my biggest qualm with like Terry Rozier going and saying what he says in Miami, and
Right.
with Kelly Oubre saying what he says in Philadelphia. Will someone, and this goes for future, because these new owners are getting a lot of credit right now. There will come a day when they need some critique as well. Will someone in this organization stand up in the moment and say, this is what we should be doing, this is what we shouldn't be doing, even if maybe it cost them their job, or they just walk away and say, I'm not going to be a part of this anymore. I just hope that there's a little bit more courage, because that's how organizations get better, whether it's in sports, business, life. It's when we're being honest, that's when things get better. And I don't think this has been a very honest era of Hornets basketball since they returned as the Bobcats.
Last thing for me, and I'm with you. I just don't know how much of the denial was going on, just because, with guys, we know about it all too well. We know about it all too well in Carolina and Charlotte. If you want to stand up to David Tepper, okay, you can just not have a job anymore. That's cool. If you want to stand up to Michael Jordan, and he might have, like if Mitch Kupchak with the Carolina Blue Mafia, that is very real. Carolina Blue Mafia is as real a mafia. I'll put $1 in the bucket. That's as real a mafia that exists. And so if you have Mitch Kupchak, if he doesn't listen to Mitch, then he's not listening to anybody. And that's just the matter of fact. It's so like for me, you can say whatever you want. Michael's going to do whatever he wants because it's Michael freaking Jordan. He's going to do whatever he wants. The same thing with David Tepper. Now, I'm hoping David Tepper doesn't do whatever he wants, but we've had this experience.
We know better.
There's been plenty of denial, by the way. I mean, just think about how many times someone stepped in front of a camera over the past couple of seasons
that kind of
and told you that this team was a playoff, play-in team. When your eyes knew better, you had watched enough basketball to know better. And yet they kept saying that, and then, they trade 3 starters, they replace the entire bench, and then all of a sudden, this team looks incredible. I mean, I just want you to really let that set in.
That's true. There has been that kind of denial. Touche on that kind of denial for sure. All right, what's next then? So we need to figure out who the next GM is going to be, and hopefully that general manager can operate at his leisure. Keith Pompey, who is one of my favorite writers just because of a certain read that he had on the Locked On Podcast Network one time. If you don't know, please go look it up. But Keith Pompey also covers the Philadelphia 76ers very well and has been doing it for a long time. And he said, despite being listed as a leading candidate for the Charlotte Hornets head of basketball operations, Elton Brand does not intend to pursue the opportunity, according to a league source. 76ers GM signed a long-term extension with the organization around the holidays and is committed to Philly. He's focused on getting the Sixers in the best position for a playoff run. Sure. BS, not BS, half true, kind of true. Nata, what do you think about this Pompey report?
I think he was never – I think, I know that Rod Boone reported that he was one of the top 2 candidates. I never believed that. I do think it's Peterson. I do think it's Trajan Langdon. Those 2 are the 2 guys most probably linked to this job, most likely to get this job. And I think word got out that Elton Brand finished in 3rd, and then he told Elton told his favorite writer exactly what happened. I think that's what's going on here, and it's completely okay with me, because quite honestly, that guy has only been around either Brian Colangelo or Daryl Morey, which means his people skills usually suck, and that's the last thing that this organization needs right now.
I think it's BS. I think the best way to run for president is to say you don't want to run for president. So I wouldn't be surprised if Elton Brand's name jumped back into the discussion. Although this is not reporting. I don't really report. I just feel. So I feel like Schnall and Plotkin know exactly who they want to hire. And it's all a matter of timing and money and negotiating that to happen. I don't think that this is a situation where you're like, okay, we're going to bring 6 or 7 guys in, because I think this hire will happen before the end of the season. So I don't think this is a situation where you're going to haul a bunch of guys into the office and, they tell you if they were going to be a tree, what tree would they be? I don't think we're in that situation. I think they know exactly who they want to hire, and it's just a matter of can they get the deal done.
Oak tree, by the way. I think they're big and strong. Oak tree would be my answer. I do think
strong as oak.
I think you're right, though, because and I know I'm going to get the information gathering joke from you as I say this, so I'll say it, leave room for the joke, and then continue the point. But Jake Fisher did talk about how Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnall were in information gathering mode for a full calendar year. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, number one team in gathering information.
That's right. So they were really in trying to get as much information as possible mode before they operated. And now it feels very plan oriented. Okay, we're going to get rid of PJ. We're going to get rid of Gordon Hayward. We're going to replenish the bench. We're going to get rid of Mitch Kupchak right after the trade deadline, right afterwards. We're going to begin our search here. We might get rid of Miles Bridges. No, okay, we'll just go ahead and keep him. And now that you've moved on from Mitch, if you knew you were going to do it for a year, then you probably knew who you wanted to hire as much as anybody. So they clearly have a number one option and have had a number one option for quite some time. It's just all about if you're going to be able to get that guy. But you know the reasons as to how you might be able to get that guy, which is probably going to be monetarily, or, it's going to be monetary reasons as to how you're able to get him. And so that would be the reason as you go get Trajan Langdon, you pay up, and then you put him in place. And so,
yeah.
So,
I think so. I think it definitely rhymes with Schmagden Langdon.
That would be the guy.
Let's be real. It's the worst kept secret in the league right now. Like, it's one of the worst kept secrets in the league. Matter of fact,
so they want.
We'll reveal the curtain. We'll reveal. I texted a certain Locked On Hornets host about what he had heard about Trajan Langdon about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Because at this point, like, that's the smoke that's coming. Like, I would be surprised if it's Jeff Peterson. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Trajan Langdon, even though I'm putting this out on wax, and it'll probably end up being very, 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 very wrong about this.
Well, yeah.
But I would be surprised. I would be surprised if it's not Trajan Langdon. I think it just comes down to what's his operational budget going to be, because if Schnall and Plotkin up the operational budget from being like the bottom of the league to just league average, I think this is going to be a very special team with Trajan Langdon leading everything basketball operations wise.
Plus, even if you are wrong, you can just say you got a little tipsy off of the whiskey down in your father-in-law's basement. It was right the day before your wedding, and you just were celebrating a bachelor's party with Locked On. Locked On style bachelor party for Nata Edwards. Getting married tomorroar. Congratulations.
Thank you. I can't believe I'm doing this again, but here we are.
Feeling great.
Speech? Are those the vows?
Don't change.
No,
if you give a toast, don't change anything. That was perfect. Okay, that was perfect. That's Nata Edwards. You can find him on Twitter at Nata the Scribe. You can find him as a married man on Saturday and a little bit later tomorrow. So congratulations once more to Nata for joining us today. But probably like Nick Carboni did this too. I think it was like a few days before his wedding, and watch out. If you hopped on Locked On, you're going to get wiped up. That's how it's going to work. Nata Edwards. There's Doug Branson. Go check his workout on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.